Welcome or welcome back to Ultra Retrospective, my never-ending odyssey to talk about the Ultraman franchise. After Ultraman Mebius finished airing in 2007, Tsuburaya Productions lost its independence and became a subsidiary in a Bandai-shaped conglomerate. Well, this video is off to a positive start. Thankfully, the Ultraman franchise didn't stop. In fact, the shows and movies that came out of this new Bandai Fields era, before the creation of Ginga, were a bit all over the place, but actually pretty interesting and experimental with retrospect. This was the start of the Ultra series' scope expanding into the wide multiverse we see today, where the groundwork was laid for future shows, as well as the beginning of the career for Ultraman Zero, one of the more enduring heroes in this franchise. Seeing as how this year marks Zero's 15th anniversary, for this video I wanted to do a quick overview of everything released under what I like to call the Ultra Galaxy Saga. I'm going to be covering basically everything released between 2007 to 2013, with some obvious unrelated exceptions. That means 1 show, 3 movies, and 3 direct-to-video specials. When I get to those movies, I'll be approaching my coverage of them like my Mill Creek box set videos. That means the analysis isn't going to be complex, but it'll hopefully keep things fun and fast-paced. I'll do my best to prevent this one from getting messy, but there's a lot to go over. We're starting on a weird note, because the TV show that kicked it all off was an adaptation of a video game. The concept for the new show began in the arcades as Mega Monster Battle: Ultra Monsters. The game later got a successor for the Nintendo Wii titled Ultra Coliseum, as well as a later edition, Ultra Coliseum DX. And I'll be using footage from that because the chances of there being footage from a 2006 Japanese arcade game online that isn't from a flip phone are very slim. So just pretend I'm talking about the arcade original. Anyways, a multimedia mini-franchise spawned from the game's popularity, and that's how we got 2 seasons of a TV show and a movie. The first season being Mega Monster Battle Ultra Galaxy, and its sequel, Mega Monster Battle Ultra Galaxy Never-Ending Odyssey. The names for these projects are going to get longer and longer, by the way, so forgive me for just calling it MMB. MMB tries a handful of new things. There are no Ultramen here, none of them are major characters at least. It instead focuses on the monsters of the franchise, their monster trainers, and the attack team stuck in the middle. The kaiju are utilized in this video gamey battle system where they can be captured and gain experience, no doubt because of the project's literal video game origins. Hell, some of the monsters are from a video game. The EX forms of certain kaiju first appeared in Fighting Evolution Rebirth for the PS2. Really, it was no different from the Ultraman seasons of the past, which would often get video games and other promotional tie-ins. But the toy element with the show's Battlenizer really feels like it takes center stage here, compared to the transformation devices of the past, which would just get close-ups and you'd go, ooh, I want to buy that, and that would be it. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of the toyetic stuff in a bit. What happens in this show? Taking place in a future where humanity has finally started traveling into space, we follow the exploration team Zap Spacey. The story proper starts when they become stranded on the monster-infested planet Boris. It's a lawless place where kaiju run rampant, and Red King gets to strangle as many as he wants. The team later meets the show's protagonist, an amnesiac heartthrob named Ray. Along with his over-leveled Gomora, he engages in Pokemon-style battles against other monster trainers, and uncovering his dark heritage. Shooting this one in the foot right now since I can't really talk about the movie or even the next season without you knowing this. I mean, for God's sake, they show it in the opening. Is it really sinful to say this? Ray is half alien. His full name is Raymon. He's inherited the genes of a powerful extinct species named the Rayblood. Ray struggles with this revelation, and it's the main source of conflict going forward. Other mysteries include questions like, what's going on with the Ultraman statue? What's the deal with Ultra 7's missing eye slugger? Will Rei succumb to the darkness in his heart? Who are these other monster trainers constantly challenging him? And whose CGI baby is this?
さっきの赤ちゃんっていうのは
Alongside Ultra 7X, this was one of the first Ultra shows to be entirely filmed and broadcast in high definition. It's a breath of fresh air if you've been watching the series in chronological order like I was, even if it reveals more of the shortcomings with the digital effects now that they're in crystal clear definition. Both seasons largely take place in front of a green screen. Unintentional foreshadowing for the movie, by the way. In the same wasteland and ship sets throughout. Though there is more variety as the scope expands for the second season. Visually, this show can get samey, but it does effectively make do with the budget it's got. It's nothing if not ambitious. There's actually a weird production detail related to the green screens. MMB had a big marketing push, since it itself was already a tie-in to an existing video game, and that meant potential marketing to a foreign audience, which, if you didn't know, Ultraman has historically had a rough time doing. To address this, Tsuburaya created the Visual Translation System. It's flowery marketing language, but the idea was that because the show was already filmed in front of a lot of digital backgrounds, they could shop the show around to interested foreign producers and replace the Japanese actors with ones native to the relevant countries. I wonder if there's a wildly successful example that made them want to do something like that. Nobody seemed to take them up on the offer, but that's why so much of Mega Monster Battle looks like this. Credit to Matt Frank for bringing up this interesting detail. If you want to help improve videos like this with interesting production tidbits, you can sign up to my Patreon and watch early cuts of these reviews. The link is in the description. The show's soundtrack isn't bad either. I enjoy both seasons' openings, and neither ending theme is fitting, but they're both bops. The first in a long line of abjectly toyetic gimmicks also appears here. Rei makes use of a device called the Battlenizer, which scans cards to summon monsters. It's an omen of things to come for the Ultra series, but the toyetic stuff here isn't as overtly offensive or reality-smashing as whipping out a 5-inch plastic doll and using that to transform. You don't really see them physically either, it's just something that's in the cutaways. It's functionally no different than a Pokeball here. We've come full circle on the capsule monsters concept. It started in Ultra 7, it influenced Pokemon, and now Pokemon has influenced Ultraman.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
It's
From its focus on monster battles to its heavy use of green screen, the whole thing feels like a precursor to all of the Ultra Fight shows of the 2010s. But it's got more substance. A little more substance. Just a tiny bit more substance. Let me put it into perspective. If you're watching Mega Monster Battle, you're not watching it for the story. Imagine if there was a major villain in Star Wars named Gary or Karen. That's what this feels like. Oh god damn it. The characters are here, so I guess I gotta talk about them. I like Rei. His actor brings an intensity to the role as the character goes through a lot of angst over who he is, and it contrasts with everyone else's largely subdued performances in a way I find amusing. I do like the captain character too. He's chill. He's quick to understand and vouch for Rei when the poor guy's going through one of his episodes. Their father-son dynamic is the emotional core of the show, and the showrunners rightfully made it the focus of the latter half. Season 2 also brings in some new faces. The Pedanians from Ultra 7 are back, and they look like supermodels now. One of them being this time-traveling hothead named Dial, here to kill every half-Rayonic before they take over the universe. He's a fun personality. Him and Rei both seem to be trying to out-act each other. There's also this extremely camp alien named Grand. This guy is so inexplicable, I have to give him points for first impressions alone.
You.
The rest of the characters are certainly there. The story is functional and it's got the conflicts and mysteries to give the characters a reason to keep going, but if you've got any degree of genre savviness, then you should be able to guess what the answers to those mysteries are, especially when they show them in the opening, which makes it hard for me to get invested.
I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
What's that make us?
Absolutely nothing, which is what you are about to become.
More so than any other Ultra series, John Carmack's philosophy about video games and story rings the truest here. I'm here to see monsters beat the shit out of each other in increasingly ridiculous ways. The appeal can largely be boiled down to Gomora vs. Eleking 1080p full fight scene HD. Whoever still had a usable suit after Tiga, Nexus, Max, and Mebius is here. Some monsters actually have their Heisei debuts here too. Rampaging monster? Well, that doesn't exactly narrow it down. What kind of subtitle is that? The monsters have a lot of personality here. When the human drama isn't doing it for me, I can always count on the visual storytelling of these fight scenes to carry the show. When Rei's pals celebrate at the end of a violent fight, there's a warmth to it. The characterization of the monsters, it's certainly a little silly, but it's the real heart of this show for me. Rei's party consists of Gomora, Litra, and Eleking, but the MVP is easily the Horned Menace. Standing 40 meters tall and weighing in at 20,000 tons, with his rolling tail drop, his super oscilla whatever beam, his daring defiance of the laws of gravity, his air dash, and his access to 2 different powerful transformations, Rei's Gomora is the best Gomo who ever rud in the whole franchise. He has yet to be topped in terms of body count. With how popular this series was as isolated YouTube clips in the late 2000s, it's not too much of a stretch to say this show single-handedly gave the monster the fanbase it has today. He's that good here. EX Gomora is also like the coolest shit ever. He's got a spin dash. I don't much care for the Rayonic burst form, all they did was color him red, and that's somehow more powerful than the EX form. What were they thinking? I do like the implication that the monsters we see throughout the Ultra series haven't reached their full potential yet. If the Gomora Ultraman fought in the original series was a couple levels higher, it might have been able to fire a beam like Rei's Gomora. Stuff like that is fun to think about. I love this little bit in episode 12 where Litra is pecking at Zeton and it just gets batted away. Seeing Zeton actually pose a threat again is refreshing, by the way. The entire first half of this episode is spent showing it overpowering Rei's gaggle of goofballs. You know that one meme I made of Zeton doing a backflip? Yeah, the wool's been pulled over your eyes. That wasn't even the real Zeton. It was an illusion. Not that it's stopped the real Zeton from acting crazy in this show. At this point, the power creep is just funny to me. Rei's whole party goes up against an army of King Joe Blacks, and they hold them off pretty well. It took an entire 2-parter for Ultra 7 to take down a basic one. And yeah, Gomora is in Super Saiyan mode, but it still seems like a bit of a leap for him to be taking on an army of King Joes that are all stronger than the original. It's amazing and absurd. The XP bonus from this fight must have been crazy. I'm gonna be real. As much fun as there is to be had here, Mega Monster Battle doesn't have a story that demands 26 episodes. It certainly has its moments. But the novelty of an Ultraman-less Monster Battle series runs out after that first season, for me at least. That's where I think Rei's character arc reached its natural conclusion. Everything else feels a bit superfluous. I like a handful of characters, the soundtrack isn't bad, and the monster fights can be a real treat. And that's it. Like, it's okay, I mostly sat through this one alone, but just to check, I did show it in a group, and that's where I think this show's real appeal is.
Just hold hands together. I wish I could turn into two beautiful rectangles.
I would love doing that. I would do it all the time.
Get a group of friends together for this one.
Was that Five Nights at Freddy's?
Freddy Fazbear?
I forgot that I was recording, so I played the cat video with the fart.
Yeah, you have to keep that in now.
Yeah.
So this is what having fingers is like. Good God, how do people live like this? I'm going back to 2D. This. I probably should have mentioned this sooner, but the nature of this video being an overview means that mild and/or major spoilers are unavoidable. But I'm hoping you're invested enough by now to not care. Before I move on to the movie that people actually want me to talk about, I'm going to dedicate the first of several lightning rounds to the direct-to-video special, Ghost Rebirth. Unlike the previous Ultraman Mebius special, Armored Darkness, this one doesn't have a whole lot to do with the cast of his series, and instead just follows Mebius shortly before the events of the movie. In it, the Ultra Brothers go to investigate an SOS signal sent by Hikari, which leads to a bargain for their lives when Mebius is forced to retrieve the Giga Battlenizer, a staff that can control upwards of 100 monsters. Keep in mind, the regular Battlenizer can only hold 3 monsters, so anyone who's got this staff is going to be really powerful. There are twists and turns. It's an enjoyable special, but outside of the admittedly thin story, this special is notable for being the first to depict the Land of Light with its current look. The Ultra series may retcon a lot of things, but this design for the Land of Light is definitively set in stone by now. It will forever be a green crystal city. Wait a minute, Land of Light? Green crystals? Land of Oz? Emerald City? The Land of Light is full of Tin Men. Oh my god, they were referencing the Wizard of Oz the whole time. I can't believe I just got that. Anyways, it's come a long way from being a bunch of blinking lights in someone's garage. Anyone else think the reason it's green is because you'd otherwise be able to see the artifacts of the green screen? Man, pointing this out feels like being annoying about the visible wires. Ignore that, actually. Still, the use of completely digital backgrounds wouldn't be so distracting if the tracking wasn't so awkward in spots. The movie looks similar, so I guess that's a perfect segue to talk about it. There's a lot to unpack with Mega Monster Battle Ultra Galaxy Legend the movie. The film's title being that, for one. It's both the finale for the Mega Monster Battle project, and a massive celebratory event film that represents a lot of firsts. It's the first movie to have this many Ultramen crammed into it. Basically, every Ultra who's related to M78 is here. It's the first to depict the Land of Light's backstory and the birth of the first Ultraman. We get to see what Ultraman NPCs look like. It's also out of its f***ing mind in the best possible way. Let's start with the plot. Let's try to start with the plot. The heel this time is Ultraman Belial, a banished half-Rayonic Ultra who's freed from his prison and immediately sets to ruining the Land of Light. Also, he has the Giga Battlenizer now. After he steals the planet's power source, one of the few survivors of the attack, Mebius, seeks out Ray for his help to defeat Belial, ending in a climactic showdown in the monster graveyard. Completely out of nowhere, Asuka joins the otherwise Showa-heavy fray. Yeah, this is why I did the Dyna video recently. Everyone is fighting everyone. All of the most insane lore keeps getting dropped. And to top it all off, it looks like this the entire time. The idea for this movie was, 1, to make it visually on par with a Hollywood production, and 2, to keep its Japanese identity. So to Tsuburaya Productions, director Koichi Sakamoto fit the criteria perfectly. He had previously worked in American productions like Saban's Power Rangers and Wendy Wu Homecoming Warrior. Listen, work is work, you gotta get what you can get. This ended up being Sakamoto's first of many Ultraman projects. Along with Kiyotaka Taguchi, Hideki Oka, and Yuichi Abe, he's one of the more prolific directors of the modern era. Through the use of many green screens, Sakamoto likes doing these stylized shots reminiscent of manga and anime frames, where the perspective can look off but the posing and framing is meant to be evocative, and the effect here can charitably be called a mixed bag. Some shots look striking, others strike me in the back of the head because they look ugly. This can be a very ugly movie at points. Nobody looks like they're really there, and the sense of scale is absolutely f***ed. But because it looks so unreal, and because the frame rate is cranked so high, and because it's so tightly edited, on top of how quickly the plot gets torn through, the whole movie feels manic and crazed in execution. It's firing on all cylinders every waking second, and I kinda love it. If that assessment sounds confusing, imagine how I felt watching the movie. The whole sequence where Belial wipes the floor with the Ultra Brothers, it just takes the cake and runs with it. It's full of cameos. Any Mega fan watching this for the first time will be pogging every 5 seconds. The action is so frenetic and tight. It's probably the best scene in the movie. Not complimenting any of this movie's strengths is the rather bland score. There are very few musical callbacks for any of the relevant characters. It's all this really bland blend of notes that don't form any real melody. Supro apparently wanted a Hollywood sound for this Hollywood movie, so they got a guy from America to do it. And this guy, Mike Verta. I haven't heard any of his other soundtracks, so benefit of the doubt that those are any good. But his lack of familiarity with the source material and inability to make any memorable riff for this movie makes it one of my least favorite Ultraman scores. It sounds like a 4Kids soundtrack, where they'd have really blunt and obvious flourishes to the on-screen action and it gets really annoying really quick.
Grandpa, what are you doing?
The last thing I want to be reminded of is the 4Kids soundtrack to Sonic X while I'm watching something else.
No, shut up. Get out of here.
The big problem here is a lack of focus. Sure, we know the goal is to defeat Belial and restore the Land of Light, but whose story is this? Is it Ray's story because he has to overcome his Ray blood and define who he really is? Again? Or is it Ultraman Zero's story because he needs to make his dad respect him again? Yeah, that's right, I didn't mention Zero in that summary earlier. He's foreshadowed once, then gets his entire backstory dumped halfway through the movie. Like Belial, Zero was seduced by the power of the plasma spark, but unlike Belial, who got to touch it and was banished, Zero didn't get a chance to touch it, and was sent to another planet to train with Ultraman Leo. Why did he get the light sentence? Because Zero is Seven's son. That's right, Seven fucked. Don't worry about who Zero's mother is, because we never learn. Maybe it was Anne, maybe Seven has a blue X, who knows. On the subject of Leo training him, I like to think Gen felt a bit of catharsis beating the crap out of Seven's son for the past god knows how many years. It was retribution. Zero's introduction into the narrative presents a problem for its focus, but okay, yeah, this movie has some plotting issues. It doesn't hide it, but let me put it in terms that a kaiju fan might understand. This is Ultraman Final Wars. From the flippy-dippy choreography to the Western filmmaking influences to being a massive monster slapfest to a giant serpent wrapping around a ship to the appearance of a major supporting character, it's literally the Ultra series' Final Wars. Every other scene has the camera whipping around, and the characters are backflipping off rocks, and the monsters keep blowing up. Oh shit! Here comes Dinah with the steel chair! Yeah! This is all to say that MMBFW is both extremely dumb and extremely fun. I love Belial. I love Belial so much. He's not a deep character at all, and his vocal and body performance revels in that. He's just in it for the love of the game. Being evil. The gnarled design is so unique, and it screams what type of character he is perfectly. But what about Zero? My impression is that this guy is considered a controversial figure in the fandom. They either love or hate him. So let me make my case. I like the guy.
He's cocky, confident, and cool, and there's not much beyond that, but that's okay.
It's not a deep characterization at all, but having a face like his around who can provide levity isn't a bad thing. He's also just got a great design. Masayuki Goto really cooked here. He designed Belial too. The sharp details are striking, and unlike his dad, he doesn't look naked without his eye sluggers. Zero was designed to be an Ultra you didn't have to watch a 50-episode series to understand. I don't think it's always necessary to watch an entire show. At the time of this writing, Cosmos is the only live-action entry I ever bailed on, and I still get the gist of his character every time he shows up. But I know for a fact that long shows can be off-putting to people who aren't already fans, so Zero was a clever way to onboard newcomers to the Ultra series. You would only need to watch the movies featuring him to get a hold on his character. Aside from Mirai's actor Shunji Igarashi retiring, that's part of why I think Zero essentially took over Mebius's role as the young rookie ready to make a name for himself. Also, Mebius's character arc was already finished.
What is undeniable is Zero being a Nepo baby. He would not be where he is in canon if he wasn't Seven's son. And I'll argue that because so many of his appearances are in one-offs in movies, it feels like he puts in the same amount of effort as his peers, but gets a much bigger reward.
Like seriously, this guy has way too many forms.
After this movie, his character development pretty much stays static for the rest of the franchise. This is true for a lot of Ultramen too, but it's more noticeable with Zero because he's the focus of so many narratives.
That said, I excuse a lot of it because I think Zero's just a fun character to have around. It's not really seen in this movie, but in later appearances he's shown to be this charismatic guy with memorable catchphrases. If Tsuburaya had to push anyone, I'm glad it was a guy voiced by Mamoru Miyano. Like seriously, this guy's a voice acting legend and he sells Zero's character so well. If you were expecting me to bash the guy, I'm sorry. I'm a Zero fanboy. Back on the topic of the movie, I admit neither him nor Belial really reach their full potential here. Zero doesn't make a proper appearance until 40 minutes in. He didn't know he was Seven's son until the third act, so I really don't buy the intended emotional payoff in the same act. Because the movie is already barreling towards the finish line, it doesn't get an opportunity to show what he's really like as a character either. Comes off as a little bland. Belial is also at his most one note. He doesn't have as many fun surrounding elements like the Kaiser persona. He's just an evil guy with an army of monsters who revels in being evil. It's fun, but this isn't Belial at his peak. It's a larger symptom of Mega Monster Battle the Legend the Movie the Saga, having too many characters to keep track of and protagonist duties being passed around like a hot potato. This isn't a word I use lightly or one that I often use for Ultraman. Mega Monster Battle Ultra Galaxy Legends the Movie is schlock. It's an overproduced, sloppily plotted, creatively baffling, yet wildly entertaining mess of titanic proportions and a big sloppy wet kiss to the franchise. These kinds of movies feel like they sit at the end of a long road, the ones you watch hundreds of thousands of episodes to appreciate. MMB The Legend the Movie is the most movie ever movied and a strong contender for the best one ever made.
Gandalf got real.
I'm like 80 years old. You have to try and pull yourself up, Christ.
You gotta do better than this, man.
It's the same as the show. Get a group of friends together for it.
Mukadender screen time begins now.
Go Mukadender.
Oh, yes.
Go Mukadender, my strongest
Mukadender, this is
warrior.
your moment to shine.
This is your moment to shine, Mukadender. You're up first.
Mukadender.
Oh,
Can you guys
Mukadender.
start fighting? I need to see Mukadender make his final stand.
What are you talking about? Mukadender's about to solo them all.
There he
There
goes.
he is.
Goodbye, Mukadender.
Another lightning round. Mega Monster Battle side story Zero vs. Darclops Zero. Characters from MMB will be around for a little while longer, but don't get it twisted. This is Zero's saga now. They're just living in it. It follows Ray, the Captain, and Gomora, the only 3 characters from Zap Spacey who mattered anyways. As these things often start, they're following a distress signal that leads them to themselves. Wow. They've been pinged by alternate versions of the Zap crew. The aliens who created the robot Ultra 7 are back, so robot doppelgangers are a problem this time around. Zero's gotta fight his, who's a Cyclops, because it's just a cool character design, I guess. They've also got to fight Mecha Gomora, who gets this awesome Mechagodzilla style introduction. Check this out. It's not only a pretty darn interesting premise, but it opens up the multiverse as a concept for the Ultraman franchise, which it otherwise just dabbled with up till now. I know in today's climate, it's considered lazy storytelling and used to justify crossovers with larger franchises for more financial incentive. And yeah, for Ultraman I do think it presents problems later down the line, but for the purpose of the Darclops Zero special, it makes for some nice intrigue. This is also where we get a taste of the cool, confident, and cocky personality Zero would have for the rest of the series. It's an entertaining side story, even more so than the last one. The action is great, the effects are cheesy, anything that gives Leo a spotlight is a full-letter grade in my book. Mecha Gomora is the new coolest shit ever, so yeah, Darclops Zero is worth seeing. Released in 2010 and directed by series veteran Yuichi Abe, Ultraman Zero: The Revenge of Belial is a perfect sequel to Mega Monster Battle in the sense that it feels bigger. Way bigger. Like, my god, have you ever seen Gurren Lagann? At the end of that show, they go into space and it's this whole thing. It doesn't get that big, but it gets pretty big. It turns out Belial survived, and he's already formed an army off-screen. Following an attack on the Land of Light, Zero volunteers to investigate and go on a multiverse-spanning adventure to track down Belial and kick his butt!
Oh, he like begging, he like, Zero, kick my butt!
Ultraman Zero! You should kick my butt! Zero.
Kick the man's butt.
Wearing weighted clothing for God knows how many years made Zero one of the most powerful Ultramen ever, apparently, because in both this and his next movie, the screenwriters were forced to limit his activities by giving him a human host. The one in this movie is named Rune, and Zero saves him from the brink of death. His little brother now doesn't seem that fazed by the fact that his brother's body has been taken over by an alien. Zero is just that charismatic, though you wouldn't be able to tell by the older brother's performance. His cosmic travels lead to him assembling a dream team of other colorful heroes from all over the universe. He also meets space pirates. Yeah, that dream episode in Dyna doesn't seem so silly now, does it? And then Belial becomes Space Godzilla. His name is Arch Belial, you hack! This movie's fun as hell, is what I'm saying. It helps that this time the story actually has focus. Zero is definitively the protagonist this time. I've got reservations about the human cast, but the other superheroes and the villains are so vividly realized, and that balances it out. The overall production design in this one is great. The immense scale of the spaceships is conveyed really well. This movie feels big. Being an anniversary production, it made sense to pay tribute to the other heroes Tsuburaya created, two of which were from the 10th anniversary way back in 1973. The space pirate Glenfire, the dutiful Mirror Knight, and the sentient AI Johnbot were inspired by the early 70s heroes Fireman, Mirrorman, and Jumborg Ace respectively. The Space Emeralds, the film's plot device, derive from the Emerald aliens featured in Jumborg Ace, too. They also probably influenced the designs of the Ultraman NPCs too, because I mean, look at him. One of Belial's generals is based off a monster from Mirrorman too. Its name is Iron. It's not just fun just because it's fan service for the nerds in the audience. They managed to take the general concepts for these older characters and reinvent them as new ones, who are memorable in their own right. That's what makes these callbacks work. And the music, mwah, beautiful, definitely an improvement over the last movie. Kenji Kawai did this soundtrack, and he was the one to finally give Zero his theme, one of my favorite tracks in the series. He bothered to do his homework too. The 70s heroes have little riffs in their theme songs, inspired by the originals. It's a great touch. It's almost like hiring the guy who did the Nexus soundtrack was a good idea or something. This wouldn't be Kenji Kawai's last soundtrack either. Look forward to the Jeed video. Hey, that kid looks kinda familiar. That's Tatsuomi Hamada. 7 years later, he would be playing the main character Riku in Ultraman Jeed. Yeah, really. It's not the same character here, of course, but wow, that's a promotion. Zero really shines here. This is his character in his prime. If you aren't sold by his shtick, then you're probably not gonna like him in his later appearances. His dad and the other Ultra Brothers have to sit back and watch. It's not their movie. But there was actually a little more with them that didn't end up in the final cut. They would have shot beams in every direction to protect the Land of Light in the third act. It looks a little more dynamic than it does in the final film, and I like the extra reaction shots of it being seen across the universe. I don't know why they cut this. It wouldn't have affected the film's pacing that much. I don't have any deep analysis for this one. Revenge of Belial is just a fun space adventure movie. There is a lot of standing around witlessly delivering exposition, and a lot of it takes place in this glitzy robot room. The new human characters are definitely the weakest aspect here, but this movie knows where to put the sauce, and it gives the action and the new superhero characters a lot of love. When it reaches that third act, it's fantastic. What it lacks in some areas, it makes up for in just how darn big it is, though it doesn't forget to stay coherent and likable. I have a big dumb smile every time I watch this one. Good movie, check it out. Another lightning round. Ultraman Zero's side story, Killer the Beatstar. What is a Beatstar? Ray and the Captain are back, this time to investigate a planet on a crash course that's revealed to be the home of the titular villain who wants to destroy all organic life. Yeah, this is the Beatstar. Its motivations are the usual anti-mortal plan stuff you've come to expect from aliens. Zero and his posse show up and have to fight a brainwashed John bot, as well as his counterpart John 9. Another nod to Jumborg Ace, which featured a second robot named Jumborg 9 in the latter half of the series. I'm about to black hole that thing? He has such a way with words. Gotta say, Ray only having Gomora and Litra in these specials is like if a Pokemon trainer only had a Blaziken and a Pidgey, and the Pidgey could set itself on fire. So like a Fletchinder or something. Not a Talonflame, no, it's not strong enough to be that. Just a Fletchinder. Sadly, this special marks the final appearance of the MMB characters. It doesn't even have the Mega Monster Battle title. It's labeled as an Ultraman Zero side story. That's how much they've been sidelined. It's a shame, but the Ultra series is all about that optimism. Hopefully, Ray will come back to clean house again someday. This does feel like a step down from the last special, though it's still a reasonably fun little romp. The music from Fumio Hara is pretty good. They gave the Zero theme this sick saxophone instrumental. Killer the Beatstar is alright. Released in 2012 and directed by Hideki Oka, Ultraman Saga is the final film of this Ultra Galaxy era. It's less of a Zero movie and more of a tribute to Ultraman Dyna. Again, this is why I did that video recently. Here's the gist. This film takes place on an alternate Earth, where a majority of the population has mysteriously disappeared. The only people left is this ragtag team of pop idols protecting a group of younglings. That's not a joke, by the way, they really did cast an idol group for this movie. Alongside a returning Dyna, Cosmos, and a new human host named Taiga, who I'll get to, Zero tries to figure out what happened. It inevitably leads to a climactic showdown, this time against Alien Bat and his Hyper Zeton. We are in the era of universe hopping, so a couple scenes happen to take place in the Neo Frontier timeline. Yeah, the one from Tiga and Dyna. Here we see that the TPC has finally gotten around to colonizing Mars. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's nice to see the cast of Dyna again. It hasn't been that long since I did a video on it, but this is a nice little nod to continuity. What is a little odd is how the version of Earth this movie takes place on isn't the same as the Neo Frontier one. I can see that being a little confusing if you don't know the lore, because otherwise it's like, why doesn't the TPC help? It's because they're in another universe, so that's a little weird if you don't know Ultraman stuff. Anyways, Asuka teaches the girls in the alternate universe how to sing the song. You know the one. I actually really enjoy how this movie opens. There's a fair bit of intrigue, and the tone is fittingly a little somber. Just a little bit. It's still pretty silly. It tries to inject a little more humanity into the story, not just because it literally features more human characters. There's a better effort to flesh them out, and the child actor playing Takeru does an excellent job. It largely takes place on Earth, so we don't see as many distracting green screen backgrounds. The scenes where they fight in the city look pretty damn good, and I wish we got more of that in this era. Unfortunately, it starts to fall apart for me once Taiga enters the picture. Not to be confused with the Ultra or the anime gremlin of the same name, Taiga is a whiny, deeply unpleasant specimen, which is unfortunate because he's the protagonist. The comparisons to Asuka are obvious. He used to be a dirtbag too. And Taiga goes through a similar arc where he becomes more competent. But I don't know if it was the actor themselves or the direction they were given, but whatever the reason is, he's doing this overbearing performance the whole time, and I find it obnoxious. I don't want to pin all of this movie's shortcomings on him. There are definitely pacing and plotting issues that would be happening if he was here or not. So much of that second act is spent in this damn warehouse. But Taiga just makes me feel dread. So much emphasis is placed on Asuka and Dyna, it feels more like a sequel to that than it does an entry in the Zero trilogy. Not that I'm complaining, the best story beats happen because of him. If you watched Dyna and enjoyed it, then consider this a proper sequel to it. And Gubila. Oh, dearest Gubila. If only you knew what fresh hell was in store for you. Despite Taiga, Saga is still a good time. The final battle with Zeton is fun. Both of his designs here are really cool. Alien Bat being the man behind the slaughter, and the one controlling Zeton, is a nice little nod to Return of Ultraman 2.
Having Dyna, Zero, and Cosmos combined to form Ultraman Saga, yes, it's an actual Ultra and not just the name of the movie, he also has a great design, and the fight opens up in a big way. Best of all, Taika keeps his mouth shut for most of it. This movie has a director's cut, where the battle with Zeton lasts even longer as it summons a bunch of monsters, which the Ultra Brothers show up to deal with so Saga doesn't get too distracted. I can see why they cut this. It feels random and purely exists for fan service. Though it does deny us the final moment the original Ultra Host actors shared a scene. After this, the original human actors mostly stopped appearing in person. With a couple cameo exceptions, they only ever did voiceovers. With Jiro Dan's passing in 2023, this will remain the final time too. Ultraman Saga is okay. There's more style, a little more substance, some decent cheese, great miniature sets in action, but some weird pacing and a completely detestable protagonist makes this the weakest of the Zero trilogy to me. 3 stars out of 5. Check it out. We meet again, Kiss Asian. If you know, you know. This lightning round is going to be extra short because I plan to talk about this in a potential Ultra Fight video, as this is Ultra Zero Fight. It's a series of shorts where Zero beats up aliens, monsters, and monster aliens. It's decent fun if you're looking to see Zero blow a bunch of monsters up. The real source of tension is the return of Belial, which was inevitable really. I don't know if this one's ever going to get an official English release, but check it out if it sounds interesting. It feels a little weird to stop the video here, because the events of the Ultra Galaxy saga continued into the shows that followed. Ultraman was permanently a multiverse-spanning project, and they were able to have a lot more crossovers between various seasons. I had to stop this somewhere, so I figured it would need to be when the shows actually started again. In 2013, after the recap series Ultra Retrospective inspired confidence in a new Ultra series, and after much begging to shareholders, Tsuburaya Productions was given $5 to make Ultraman Ginga, the first proper televised Ultraman series since Mebius. If it weren't for Ginga, or maybe in spite of it, we wouldn't have a new season every year. Zero would of course cameo in a show or theatrical movie every now and again, but he left it to the newbies to make a name for themselves like he once did. He acts as an inspiration for future generations. The fruits of this can be seen in Ultraman Z, where the title character is a total Zero fanboy. His biggest post-Ultra Galaxy role can be seen in Jeed, where he played secondary to the title star, which, like always, I'll be saving that for another video. Belial plays a big part in that too. The rivalry between him and Zero became a major component in spin-off media for the years to come. There was a minor meme for a little bit where it seems like Zero was going to steal the spotlight in just about every show, or at least the movies. But this hasn't happened in a while, now that the showrunners are getting more confident with these seasons happening away from the larger Ultra Fight storyline. Yeah, that's a whole can of worms too. The whole premise of various Ultramen teaming up continued in the form of a yearly web series, which used the Ultra Fight name. I want to save talking about them for another video. Maybe I'll discuss the original Ultra Fight and Redman too. While Rei and his Gomora haven't appeared in the shows since, the dynamic was replicated with Daiichi in Ultraman X. He also has a Gomora who can transform. The Battlenizer and how the characters of Mega Monster Battle interacted with it, combined with real-life toy sales, influenced the new wave of Ultraman shows too. Now the heroes needed accessories in addition to their transformation device to complete the transformations, and it's really tacky. The shows themselves mostly stayed pretty good at least.
this is the part where I end the video. The larger point is, the Ultra Galaxy Saga had a huge impact on the direction of the franchise and was overall a fun little era to revisit. Have a good rest of your day, and if you celebrate them, happy holidays. Hey gamers, thanks for making it to the end of the video. It took me 3 to 4 months to get both this and the Dyna video done, so I think I'm going to try to pace myself a little better from now on. Hopefully. And here is a special shout out to the top patrons: J. King, Mech, Celis Ortesia, Blind Man, Greninja Zack, Old Metal Possum, Solid Lib, Dinosaurana, Kidorian, Scooter Jit, Mego Muddy, Lobotomy Blues, Cool Bell Zero, Johnny Hedgewolf, Eric Guzda, Jonos Firewalker, Easterman, Manila Fan, Sampai, Big Dumb Media, Novik 15, Jacob Hinch, Dude Bro, Alistair Gilmore, Seamus Kelly, Anonymous Euronymous 1349, Fujoshi Urinal, Grazio, Mulan Nguyen, Irrelevant 402, Hey I'm Mooney, Krazak 53, Queer Kaiju, Chronicler Waba, Ryan Santa Cruz, Avok Robot, The Antagonist, Godzilla Rich, It's God Z, An Actual Dimetrodon, CMG, Red Comet Harry, and Marpzilla. Thank you all very much.
It's gotta die.